Hello, I'm Dave with Dave and Sonia, Michigan, and I want to discuss the lithium batteries that I used in both my truck and my trailer, whether you should buy or you should build. I have about 7 reasons why I chose what I did, and one of them I want to discuss is what to do when you need multiple batteries. So make sure you stick around for that one. So let's jump in the truck and I'll show you the one battery that I have in here. I'm actually going to pull it out and then we'll show you what we have in the trailer. Let me get access to inside here. So I have a tour video of both the truck and the trailer. I'll put a link up here above so you can watch that. So now we'll go inside. So this is my solar setup. I have 3 solar panels on the top, so 300 watts total. A combiner box here, which I need to turn off first before I disconnect the battery. So that's off. A cooling fan over here that's cooling the inverter when it does run. Just another added protection. This is the battery that I used, so I chose to buy one, and I want to show you the reasons why I chose this. So first is the Anderson connector. So that I can just unplug and I can pull the battery out. But before I unplug it, I actually want to turn it off. So secondly, there's a power button on here. So I'm going to turn it off. So I turn it off, the fan turned off. So I have no more power. This is a heavy duty electrical connector. So back in manufacturing where I used to work, they use this type of connector on forklifts that were battery operated. So a big heavy duty connector. I've seen it on snowplow trucks. I've seen it on a lot of heavy duty applications that use a lot of power. So that was one of the nice features that I thought with this battery. So I can just plug it in, unplug it. I have power on there. So I was able to just turn that off. And we'll take it outside and I can show you some more features, but I also have a voltmeter on here. If I turn the power on, you can see how many volts that we have. So those were the first 3 features. So let me bring it outside so we can look at it some more. So now I got the battery outside of the vehicle, which is basically made possible by the first 3 features. So the Anderson connector that plugs in here. So there's no ports, no terminals exposed on the outside, no cables. The power switch, turn it on off, and then the voltmeter. Those were the first 3 features. But I also have a 300 amp fuse, which is inside. So it's self-protected. It doesn't mean you still don't need to have fuses in the rest of your setup. But then this also has, so the 4th and the 5th being the internal BMS. So this already has a BMS in it. So I bought it. It's already pre-configured. I can customize it some. So those were the first 5 features. I just want to point these out. It wasn't a feature. This is what I added extra because it does get cold in the back of the truck. Actually, and in the trailer, I put it on there as a precautionary just in case I don't have the heat on. But on here, I have these pipe heaters. They're called elbow heaters. So you put them on elbows of copper pipes to keep them from freezing. So they only use 4 watts. So I have 5 of them on here. I have one on this side, one on the other side. I have one on the back, but I also put 2 on the bottom. And then the way I have them wired, so I have a little splitter here. So I can either use just the 2 on the bottom, I can use just the 3 on the sides, or I can use all 5 of them. So I started off with just the 2 on the bottom, and I felt that I needed a little bit more heat, so I put 3 on the sides. Didn't have any problems with it, but now I think 5 is too much, so I may end up trying this year to just leave the 3 on the sides on and disconnect the 2 on the bottom. But it also depends on how cold it gets. You know, maybe most of the year I can just leave the 2 on the bottom on, and when it gets cold, I can plug in the other 3. So it's fairly simple, just the way you wire it. I can plug them in or choose not to plug them in. So the 6th feature, which I can also relate to building your own, which was one of the reasons why I actually wanted to build my own the first time. I'm smart enough, I can do it. I know a lot about batteries. They are cheaper if you build them yourself. There's a lot to know, a lot you need to be able to do. Soldering, be able to run the wires, make it look nice, make sure you get everything tight enough. A lot of worries that I didn't want to have to worry about. I didn't want to have to worry about causing a fire, having something get too hot. So especially for my first one, first build, I wanted to just buy something that was already off the shelf, make sure I didn't have any worries, kind of plug and play. And that's what I felt like I got. So that was the 6th feature with buying it. I don't have to worry about if it's going to work. All the connections on the inside, I hope, are tight. I guess you can always run into an issue with anything, but it's coming from a factory. Hopefully their standards are high enough that everything is built right, everything is tight. The BMS settings are all accurate. Balancing should be taken care of. Just hope that everything is sufficient. One of the things that I did not like is when I bought the battery, the cord that they came with had small gauge wire on it. So I ended up going on Amazon and buying the larger cables, and I can put a link in the description for that. But this is a 12 volt, 170 amp hour battery. So it's 2,100 watt hours capacity. So it's pretty good size for its footprint. It's taller than probably most of the batteries, but it's skinny and not very deep. I built it so that I could actually put another one on top of this one in there if I needed to and get twice the capacity. I really can't put any more panels on the roof, but I do have 5 additional panels here that I have for another portable generator, solar generator that I have. I actually have 2 panels here also for a second solar generator portable, the unit that I have, but I could plug those in, deploy them on the ground, build another connector, another charge controller, and charge in here too. But it's easy to configure. I just would have to get another cord. I could plug in 2 of these. So the last feature, I need to jump into the trailer and I'll show you my setup in there, and then we'll talk about the last feature. So the big batteries I have in here are under my bed right here. So let me move this bed out of the way and then I'll show you what I have. So we have a tour video of the trailer and the truck, and I'll put that link up here and you guys could watch that. But one of the features that we have here is the mattress could normally tip up against the wall, and then there's 2 pieces of plywood here on a hinge, so this would lean up against the mattress and it could be a seat. So there's 2 beds here, so it's a 12-foot long seat. Over under here is where I have my electrical system. So this is part of the electrical system. This part is removable, and I'll show you that in a second. The inverter is right here, standing up, mounted to the wall. We have 2 additional cooling fans in here, which monitors the heat underneath, and it'll draw air out, varies the speed. But I have 3 batteries, and they're underneath right here. So I have them in a tray underneath this. So I have 24 volt batteries, 170 amp hours each. There's 3 of them. So it's 12,200 watt hours. They're underneath the electrical here. So let me pull this electrical out and I'll show you the batteries. So these are the 3 batteries. So same to the one that's in my truck. I got a voltmeter here, power button here, and then I have the Anderson connector here. So I have the 3 plugs. I could unplug those 3. I could unplug one of them, pull one out if I needed to. I also have the heat tape on these also. You can barely see it right here. And I got one on the other side. So there's 2 per battery. So that's 6. And then what makes these nice is the cables. I just have them coming up. And then I made this bus bar here. I made them so they have equal distance. And then the cables are all the same length. So these are the positive cables. Here's the negative cables. So that comes to our 7th feature, 7th benefit of having these type of batteries. These are BigBattery.com batteries. You get a discount if you use my link. It's in the description. The 10% discount, which is a really good discount. If you buy enough batteries, I think you get free shipping. They have sales a lot of times. But the 7th benefit for buying batteries like this is to get the same capacity, I would have needed 10 12 volt 100 amp hour batteries. So with 10 batteries, I would have had a lot of electrical connections. I would have needed to make sure that I had all the cable lengths the same, make sure the positive battery went to the front corner of the batteries and the negative battery cable went to the back corner so I get proper balancing. Going this way, you can configure these batteries. I could probably have gotten one battery big enough where I would only have to buy one, and it might have been a little bit cheaper. But I also want to mention that here. I think these can take 100 amps, maybe 150 amps input charging. So, because I have 3 of them, I could take 150 amps each input, but I don't have that much coming in. So I have 2200 watts on the roof. I have a 20 amp charger plugged into it. And then if I'm plugged in the shore power, I get another, I forget, 75 amps from the inverter. So whatever I'm feeding in through this point, through the bus bar, I'm feeding in through this point is divided up 3. So if I would have bought just one big enough, I think I would have been limited on how much power I could have gone into them. But this way, I have 1/3 of the power going to each battery, versus if I would have had just one battery, all the current would have gone into the one battery. That's also one of the benefits, is that you can configure these. You can get 12 volts, which is what I have in the truck. These are 24 volts. You can get 36, 48, 72 volt batteries. It comes in one box already. You can get long ones that are skinny and tall. This one is called the Hawk. They have a Hawk Max 2, which has more capacity, 228 amp hours, but it's a taller box. The one that's in the truck is an Owl. So it was a 12 volt, 170 amp hour. This was 24 volt, 170 amp hour. This was the Hawk. I didn't see them on the website anymore. I got these over 2 years ago. So I didn't see the Hawk on there anymore, but they have a Hawk Max 2. But you can get out many different kinds of configurations to fit whatever size you need, space wise. So that's one of the big advantages of buying them this way, as opposed to just putting 10 batteries down here, having to hook them all up, configuring them for series and parallel. These are already configured internally. I just have 24 out, going to these two terminals, and it just really simplified everything. So with 10 batteries, I would have had probably at least 20 cables and all the nuts and bolts and screws. I would have had to make sure everything is tight. These are meant to be quick connects, plug in and out. So I don't have to make sure they're tight. They're going to be tight. I have 6 screws to make sure that I'm going to be tight, plus what's on the fuse and what's on the shunt. So being electrical, being a big issue with a lot of people, just making sure your terminals are seated properly on your bus bars with the washers and bolts and the nuts. And if you don't have the proper connections, if they're not tight enough, I didn't want to have all those terminals and stuff, especially in the trailer. In the truck, I only got 1 battery. It wouldn't have been much of a big deal. But in here, 10 batteries would have probably taken up more space than what I'm taking up. That's probably about 10.5 inches deep, 3 of them. I just have a wooden tray that I built on the bottom, and I have foam underneath the tray and those 3 screws there. I have 3 more on the other side. They're not pulled tight to the floor, so there's a little bit of give with the foam. And then I also have foam underneath each of the batteries. There's a piece of wood as a spacer between each of the batteries. So they're kind of keyed in there. So really the battery's not mounted. And then underneath this top platform, I also key in around the batteries. So these go between each battery here and here. These had to be loose because the way I tip it in when it's on top of the battery, these have to be able to lean the opposite direction when I'm tipping it. So it goes beside the battery. But that spacer fits between the battery and the file cabinet here. And that contains the battery for moving around too. So I also have holes in between these items here and here, so I can see the display on the battery. So that'd be the 3rd battery back, 2nd battery back, and then I can see the display right here from this one. So let me put this back in. So buying batteries versus building the batteries. Building would be cheaper. Buying them is a peace of mind for me. That was the main reason why I chose to do this. Many YouTube videos show you how to DIY your own batteries. I thought I'd like to do that, but I chose not to because I wanted the peace of mind. So if you really don't know what you're doing with batteries, you probably should look at buying batteries. Then the next step when I started looking at buying batteries, because I was actually looking at battle borns and many of the other type of batteries, I just needed a lot of batteries in here and I didn't want to have all the connections. So when I found BigBattery.com, it made the whole thing way easier. So I like the connectors, I like the power button. I was going to put a voltmeter on mine, so having the voltmeter on there was already another feature. Having the fuses internal, I think is a great additional safety. I have plenty of fuses in here anyways. Hopefully none of the fuses will ever go if I did everything right. But if you end up going this way, use BigBattery.com. You can buy the other batteries if you only need 1 or 2 batteries. But if you need a bigger system, Big Battery, it's all one word, BigBattery.com is a great resource to get bigger batteries. And use my code in the description. It's Dave and Sonia 10, no spaces, and it's spelled out. So Dave and Sonia 10, you get a 10% discount. And if you like videos like this, Make sure you subscribe to our channel up here. Watch more videos like this down here. And I'll also have our trailer tour video up here. Soon we'll be doing a more in-depth trailer tour. But this was a short, quick trailer tour, so make sure you watch that. So have a good day. Bye.